Well, since we had an issue with fitting our headers and a couple of other things on, I decided to, in order to keep moving forward and at least get some sort of progress, decided to test fit and install the hydraulic clutch system. So we're actually using the American Powertrain master cylinder set with the reservoir, and we actually have a Ram clutches hydraulic throw up iron, so I'll show you guys how that works. But I've been kind of test fitting, and I kind of figured out what I was doing in terms of where I wanted to put the master cylinder, and I'm actually just utilizing the original hole through the firewall for the clutch linkage. So here, take a look, see what I got going on. So I've already got some of the stuff done, but basically here's the master cylinder right here. This is, like I said, the American Powertrain. So they have kind of a proprietary mount where the Willwood master cylinder kind of sits inside and allows you to kind of pivot it and angle it accordingly. So you can actually see the clutch rod, you know, it's right there. It goes through the firewall. That was the pre-existing hole. All I did was I positioned it where I needed to. I drilled two holes, and there's a plate that comes from this side and then bolts to hold this in place. But you can see basically I got it set up so it's resting right there, right on the lip of the inner fender, so it kind of gives it a little bit of stability there, as well as it has the 4 bolts mounted there. So due to the location of where this master cylinder is, you can see I have my brake proportioning valve right there, and then I have obviously all of my brake lines. So you can essentially use their master cylinder, their reservoir, and just mount it right on top, or you can use this bracket that they have and locate it remotely. So that's what we're going to end up doing. Actually, I think the best spot for it is going to be right here next to the master cylinder. So it fits nicely up in there. So this will actually be, straight. It doesn't block where the bulkhead connector was, and then I have the holes that go through the firewall. So we're gonna mount it right there and then just run the rubber hose right from this nipple down to that nipple right there. That way we have enough for gravity feeding. So neat little system that they have. So I'm gonna go ahead and mark these holes right here on this bracket, and the kit supplies you with a couple of self-tapping screws. So you can just kind of self-tap the screws in there, and so let's mount that up now. We'll get the reservoir mounted utilizing the sheet metal screws, the self-tapping sheet metal screws that the kit provides. And then I ran the hose so as to avoid where the steering column is going to come through. So behind the brake lines and then down onto the master cylinder. So because we have the master cylinder here, previously I actually had my proportioning valve was mounted right to the inner fender, but we're not going to have room to do that. So I think it'll be perfectly fine where it is. We're going to clean up this engine bay a little bit and kind of tape some stuff off and paint it anyway. So, but yeah, I think that should do it as far as mounting it. And then, so that's where the hydraulic line is going to come out, and that's actually going to go to the line's going to come out, probably come down under here, and then attach into the transmission. Well, now that that's all set, let's head under the dash and see what's going on under there. All right, so under the dash here, you can see that's where it came through the firewall, through the existing hole for the factory clutch rod. The only thing I wasn't really fond of here was the bracket sitting right here, but it does clear the steering column, which is something that I just double checked before I did that. So I guess that'll work for now. Next thing we're going to need to do is basically attach to the clutch pedal. So this is where it's going to be really difficult. So we need to get this rod, and we have an extension rod that's right here that's going to screw onto this, and then we need to attach it to the actual clutch pedal. So you can see right here is where the original linkage would have attached. they say that this, if you pop this pin out, it actually gives a pretty good pedal adjustment. So in order for us to do that, I don't know if you can see it. Let me move this light. Here we go. So in order to do that, if we grind out this tab right here, we should be able to press that pin out and use this hole for the clutch rod. It comes with a Heim joint and everything. So I'll show you how all that stuff works, but let's test fit the clutch rod itself and see if that is going to do what we need it to do. And for those of you who looked at that and said there's no way that that's going to clear the steering column, this is the steering column gasket. You can see that's how it's going to fit. And you can see right there, it just barely clears. I did that on purpose so that the flange on the steering column didn't interfere with the bracket here for the master cylinder. Guess we're gonna call it a day with that. That clutch linkage under the dash, man, really kicked my butt. Let me show you what I did. All right, so that's the master cylinder coming through the firewall. What we had to do was, if you look here, so this was the original pivot point. Basically what I did over here was I ground the rivet off. I ended up having to take the whole pedal out, but I ground the rivet off, heated up the brace here, and used my press and pressed the old pivot point out. And then what we needed to do is actually notch the brake support, and then we had to just basically cut this threaded rod. So basically I had to just cut this threaded rod to fit, and we had to use a couple of shims up here just to put the rod out. So that's actually a long bolt with plastic nylon spacers, and then it's bolted on the back side. And then I had to put a clutch pedal stop to prevent the clutch pedal from pulling the master cylinder out. So there's a little bit of, there's a little bit of wiggle in the pedal, but I got a clutch pedal. It goes down. So, and supposedly you're supposed to have about 5 to 6 inches of travel. So I actually measured from I used a straight edge. Basically I used a wrench like this, and I made a mark on the wrench right about here at the up position, and then I pushed the pedal all the way down and then made another mark on the wrench. So I had 2 marks. So I had 2 marks on the wrench, like one here, and I measured, and it was just a little over 5 inches. So hopefully that's enough to do what we need to do. We'll see when we put fluid in it and try to bleed it out.